what's up, and welcome to the No Bullshit Manifestation Show. I'm your host, Kat Kozad, manifestation expert, money mindset and fulfillment coach, and multiple six-figure entrepreneur. Come sit with me while I spill the real tea on what it's like to practice using intentional manifestation, demystify all of the woo-woo and confusing bullshit that comes along with creating the life of your dreams, and give you a realistic view of what it's like to be on a personal, spiritual, and professional growth journey. The goal of this podcast is to support and guide you towards manifesting all of your dreams, shed light on the things that people are too scared to talk about, and encourage you to become the person who gets to have it all, be it all, and do it all. I am so happy you are here. Let's fucking do this thing. What's up, loves? Welcome back to another episode of the No Bullshit Manifestation Show. Oh my goodness, I cannot believe how quickly 2022 has gone. And at the exact same time, literally, I have no clue what it is, but since I started my business in January of 2020, it feels like every year goes by in the span of 6 months, but within that 6 months, it feels as though I've lived 4 years. So it's crazy to look back at the beginning of 2022 and see who I was and what my life was like and everything that has manifested since. But it also feels as though it happened in such a short amount of time. And my goodness, yeah, just so much growth, so much change this year, which is a perfect segue into what we're going to be talking about in today's podcast episode. As you can see by the title of the episode, is Major Life Lessons in a Season of Uncomfortable Growth. So this is a bit of a personal update episode / also some really powerful life lessons that I have been learning and experiencing and going through over the past month or so. So if you listen to the podcast, you know that I am over in the UK right now, and I made the decision to cancel my flight back to the US and book an Airbnb in London until the end of 2022. And that is all changing. I am actually getting ready to head back to New York City at the beginning of next week. I'm flying back there next Tuesday, so a week from when this is being recorded. But yeah, I am so excited to be headed back to the city. And I have so many life updates about what is going on and why this has been such an uncomfortable period of growth for me. So let me share with all of you what's been going on and really just give you an update, like I said, and then some life lessons on why this has been such a powerful yet painful experience for me and how I've really shown up for myself in ways that I haven't in the past. So essentially, I spent the summer in Cornwall, which is down on the coast in the southern part of the UK. And it was just the most gorgeous summer. Got to spend almost every single day on the beach, swimming in the ocean, really slowing down, reconnecting to my body, reconnecting to my feminine essence, just feeling into and separating myself from so much of the chaos that had been going on earlier in my year in the US. And it felt so rejuvenating, so restorative to be in this environment and to take such a big step back from what my life had looked like in the US for a few months prior to that. And so I thought that by making the decision to stay in the UK but move up to London, that I would stay in that same energy. And if I'm being completely honest with myself, the moment that I got back to London, because I stayed in London at the very beginning of my trip over here, it just felt off to me. And it's funny because over the past few weeks, I've really been trying to pinpoint like what or why or where. It felt as though things didn't energetically line up for me here, but the reality is that like I just don't vibe with London's energy in the way that I thought I was going to. And I was trying to convince myself that I was happy here because I had made this decision, because I had canceled my flight, because I had booked an apartment for 3 months, because I had already paid for it, because of what I had already told everybody online and what I had already told my family and my friends, which was that I was staying over here. I was trying to convince myself that I was happy here because I didn't want to go back on my word. And that's one of my biggest patterns from the past, is that I tried to see things through always for the sake of not looking like I was a flake or looking like I would go back on my word. And that's what I started to do here. And it was bringing me further and further out of alignment with myself. And I started to experience like low-key dread and like the most insane anxiety that I have experienced since the very, very beginning of my manifestation journey, like since my spiritual awakening. And it was honestly such a wild and painful experience. And I was having such a hard time focusing on my relationships. I was having a hard time focusing on my business. I was having a hard time focusing on my clients, on my health, on my fitness, on all of these different things that are so important to me. And there was one day that I just decided like, okay, like I just need a full day where I'm doing absolutely nothing. I need to focus on myself, getting myself back to a really good place, and like everything's going to be okay. And so I canceled my calls that day, and I just like really tuned out the world and focused on myself. And I decided to go out for a long walk and like explore a different part of London that I hadn't been to yet. And as soon as I left my house, I started seeing dead birds everywhere. And this may sound super weird if you are not spiritual or if you don't believe in signs of guidance from the universe, but literally, I cannot tell you the last time in my life that I had seen a dead bird. And it was literally within 24 hours, like 5 dead birds. And I was like shook to my core. I texted my girlfriends and was like, what the fuck is happening? One of them, who had just like completely transformed her life with intentional manifestation as well, was like, oh my God, I started to see dead birds right before like a rebirth in my life. And like, as you guys know, everything's so beautiful now. But it was just like such a crazy sign of guidance in such a short amount of time that really played into what I was already feeling and how I was not being honest with myself and how I was trying to convince myself of something else. And then on top of that, I also just started literally everywhere seeing signs of guidance about New York, which was hilarious because obviously I'm in a different country right now, but like everywhere I went, like people were talking about New York. There were posters of New York, shirts, things popping up on my phone, things popping up in just like in my environment around me. I was like, okay. So I had a moment where I got really, really honest with myself. And I was honestly like in the position where I was just crying my fucking eyes out, like hysterically sobbing. And was like, Kat, like, what do you actually want right now? And it was in that moment that I was actually very honest with myself of like, I don't want to be here. Like, I don't want to be in London anymore. I know that this can be a great experience. I know that this has been a great experience so far, even though it hasn't been what I thought it was going to be. And I still don't want to be here. I still want to be back in New York. I still want to follow what is true for me right here, right now in this moment, which is the fact that I'm very over traveling at the moment. I've been living the nomad life for a year and a half now. And like, I just want to lay roots down somewhere and that somewhere being New York City, and like actually start to build a home. Because yes, absolutely, like within myself, I've created a home. I have created the sense of safety and security and everything. But I'm so ready to actually have a physical place that is all my own and that I can really start to build that sense of home and build a community and lay roots down, like I've been saying. So I immediately got in contact with the lady that I had been renting this place from and communicated my situation to her, and she was very understanding of all of it and allowed me out of the contract that I had signed, refunded me for what I had already paid, which was absolutely amazing. I somehow, by the grace of God, found a very short-term place to stay in New York City while I look for a full-time place, and I booked a flight home all within less than 12 hours. And cherry on top of all of this happening, the same exact day, my mom was having surgery, and I, more than anything in the world, wanted to talk to her and like wanted to be able to make this decision with her, because any big decisions that I have made for myself in the past, they hadn't been something that happened so quickly, and it also wasn't something that I had ever had to like do on my own, if that makes sense. Like I have always like bounced an opinion off of somebody, or like have always communicated in some sort of way like what I was going to do before I did it, and this was like literally just pulled the trigger, did it by myself, made all of these things happen, and then like a few days later had the opportunity to share with her and like share with the rest of my family over here in England what my plan was and what was going on. But it was such an emotional experience for me for so many reasons. But the biggest one of those reasons being that in the past, if I would have found myself in this kind of situation, I would have handled it so differently than I ended up handling it now. And it was so uncomfortable for me to show up in the energy in the way that I did, but it brought me some of the greatest life lessons and like biggest growth that I have experienced. Because like in the past, I would have just stuck it out. I would have tried to convince myself that I was happy here. I would have hid, I would have cried, I would have been refusing to be vulnerable and share with anybody what is actually going on. I would have allowed myself to just stay in that experience of anxiety and dread and like honestly try to figure a way out of it by myself without actually following what my heart and what my soul wanted me to do for the sake of maintaining an image. Like, if you have listened to the podcast, you know that back in 2019, I lived in Boise, Idaho, and I was so unhappy there, but I stuck it out living there because I didn't want to go back on my word, and I didn't want to look like I was a failure. I didn't want to look like I had fucked up. I didn't want to look like I didn't know what I was talking about. I always wanted to maintain this image of myself and feel as though I could be somebody that people looked up to or people trusted because I chose to do things and I followed through on them. And this was honestly the first time in my life that I have committed to doing something that didn't feel right once I got into it. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to allow myself to follow what my heart and soul actually wants right now. And I am going to, at whatever cost, create the change that I am wanting to see and feel in my life, because life is too goddamn short to pretend like I am happy, even if it's just for 3 months or even if it's just for a short period of time. Because could I have done that? Yes, absolutely. But again, it's like I am not available for that anymore in my life. I'm only available for experiences that light me up and to live in alignment with my heart and soul and to show up and do the things that make me feel like the highest and greatest version of myself. And being here just hasn't. And it took me a few days to be okay with everything that I have decided for myself and like be okay with the fact that some people may not understand and that it doesn't, again, quote unquote, look the way that I've wanted things to look like in the past. But it doesn't fucking matter what it looks like on the outside, because what matters is what is going on for me and for my energy, my heart, my soul, what I want for myself in my life. And my God, like I've said many a times in this podcast, it's just been a lot of massive, massive growth for me. So a few life lessons that I have learned throughout this experience. First is that getting what you want, manifesting what you desire into your life, oftentimes is going to require you to face what is ridiculously uncomfortable to get it, but it's always going to be worth it. You may have to have confronting conversations. You may have to leave the job that you hate. You may have to spend money that you don't have. You may have to be really fucking honest with yourself when it would be easier to maintain a old pattern or behavior, to maintain some sort of image. Whatever it may be, those things are going to be so fucking uncomfortable because they're going to require you to grow. They're going to require you to show the fuck up for yourself and for your life in a way that you haven't in the past. And through that, you are going to shift your energy, shift your vibration so much. And it is going to put you into alignment with the things that you desire in your life. And I'm saying this because it's like this manifestation journey, this journey of creating the best, most abundant life that you could possibly have, it's not sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes it's really fucking hard. Sometimes it's really fucking uncomfortable. You're going to have to get honest with yourself. You're going to have to look at the shit that you don't want to look at. You're going to have to risk being judged, risk failure, risk all of these different things. But what comes on the other side of you choosing to do it anyway is so much greater than what you would experience if you were to just stay in whatever it is that you're unfulfilled with for the sake of staying in your comfort zone, for maintaining some sort of identity or image. Again, whatever it may be for you in your life. So that's the first major life lesson that I've had. Second is that sometimes you have to manifest what you think you want in order to realize that you don't actually want it. And I will say this is not the first time in my life or my manifestation journey that I have experienced this. And I actually think it is so fucking powerful and so incredibly cool because people can sit around all day long and tell you, oh, like you don't actually want that, or like you should want this, or whatever it may be. But the reality is like you will never know in your own life what you want and what you don't want until you put yourself out there and you allow yourself to make mistakes. You allow yourself to fuck up. You allow yourself to take risks, take chances, to pursue whatever it is that you think that you want in that moment in time. Because the reality is that your intuition and the universe is always eventually going to guide you back home to what it is that you actually want. So I have no fear of going out and pursuing and manifesting all of these things that I think that I want, because the reality is that I absolutely will end up manifesting them. And at that point, I can see and decide if it is actually something that I want. So for me in this experience, and like I shared, it's like what I actually know now and what I crave now is like home. I want to lay down roots. I want to not necessarily like quote unquote settle down, get a husband, like start a family just yet. But I really want to have just a home base and to buy cute stuff for my apartment and to make incredible home cooked meals and to have slow mornings and all of the things. And I know that because I manifested the life of being a digital nomad, of traveling all around the world, of hopping from place to place, of never having a home base, of living out of a suitcase. And did that season serve me? Abso-fucking-lutely. The season of being a digital nomad was one of the most incredible experiences I think I've ever had. But as we grow and as we evolve, our manifestations are going to change as well. And just because we've thought we wanted something for such a long time doesn't mean that there isn't going to be just one day, one moment in time that all of that changes and you actually want something different. And when you can give yourself permission to be super fucking honest with yourself, like I've been sharing about in this podcast episode, that's when you give yourself the opportunity to go down a new path, go down a new road, and continue to fulfill all of the things that your heart and your soul have been calling you towards. Because the reality is like, you may think you want something until you get it. And you won't know that until you allow yourself to fuck around and go out and learn. And like I've been saying, take risks, experiment, play. Like, this is what life is for. Life is meant for us to try and experiment and do all of these different things. It's not meant for us to feel as though we're limited in any sort of way. And yeah, big growth in all of that for me. And the last life lesson, and this is a lesson that I've always known and I've seen come together in my life so many times, but it's always just such a beautiful reminder, is that the universe will conspire to support you whenever you choose to follow what your heart and soul is leading you towards. Literally, from the moment that I got honest with myself about the fact that I didn't actually want to be here in London and that I wanted to be back in New York City, every single possible thing to align and support me within that decision aligned and supported me within literally less than 12 hours. Like, I cannot tell you how crazy, honestly crazy it was that everything aligned so fucking perfectly. Like, the fact that I was able to get a full refund for my Airbnb here in London, and that the host here was so understanding and so supportive. The fact that there was a perfect Airbnb in the neighborhood that I want to live in New York City that was available. The fact that I literally did not think I had any miles for my flight back to the US, but like ended up having somehow enough flight points to like not only book a flight back to the US without spending any money, but like book a business class flight without spending any money. So like essentially like free business class flight back to the US. And it's just been such a powerful reminder of the fact that we are always supported within our manifestations. We are always supported within what our soul wants us to do the most. The moment that you decide to get honest with yourself and say, you know what? No, I don't want to be in that job, or I don't want to be in that relationship, or I don't want to be in that city, or I don't want to be in whatever thing it is that you've been putting yourself into and feeling as though you have to settle for in some sort of way, or doesn't light you up to the fullest, or isn't in alignment with you in some sort of way, and you choose what it is that you desire the most, then the universe is going to conspire to help you in making that your reality. And when you can lean into the faith, the trust, the belief that that is your reality, then girl, let me tell you, it feels like it's magic. I know that it's not. I know that all of this is energy and it all perfectly makes sense in an energetic and scientific standpoint. But my fucking God, does it feel like magic? So all of this to say that I am so grateful for all of the lessons. I'm so grateful for what feels like such a massive shedding and like death of an old version of myself, because it's allowed me to step further and further into a greater and greater version of myself. And I'm so fucking excited for all of the abundance and all that is to come by me returning back to this place of alignment inside of myself, and also returning to the city that lights my soul on fucking fire. I cannot tell you how excited I am to be back in New York City. And if anybody who's listening to this podcast lives in New York or in the area, y'all hit a girl up on Instagram. I would love to connect with other people who live in the area. And yeah, I can tell you there have been so many energetic shifts that have been going on over here, and that is playing out in such a big way inside of the business, and especially inside of the Abundant AF Babe Academy. So big things to come in the next few weeks, especially for anyone who has been interested in joining the Abundant AF Babe Academy. So keep your eyes and your ears peeled, because I have some really exciting things to share with y'all soon on all of that. And one last thing, if you have been listening to the podcast, if you have been here with me and you enjoy the show and you are a Spotify listener, please, 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 right here, right now, take a moment to open up your app and leave a star rating for the podcast on Spotify. Literally, I didn't know that this was a thing until like a few weeks ago. And y'all, let's get the Spotify poppin' with some 5-star ratings if that is what you feel inclined to do. So yeah, Spotify listeners, if you would please leave a star rating for the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, y'all know the deal. If you would leave me a review on Apple, I would appreciate it so much. And yeah, now y'all know the tea. This is the first place that I have announced this. So I am going back to the city and I'm so excited. And I'm so excited to share more with all of you soon. And until then, I'm sending you all of my love, and I'll chat with you on the next episode. Oh my gosh, thank you for listening to today's episode. I'm so grateful to have these no bullshit talks with you. If you enjoyed today's episode or the podcast as a whole, please spread the love by leaving me a review on iTunes or sharing the podcast with others. This is how I will be able to spread more of these good vibes and be able to make more of an impact on the lives of others. And if you're not already part of all of the goodness and communities that I have to offer, check out the show notes. I have links to the different ways that I can support you on your manifestation journey and help you live a life full of more money, fulfillment, and freedom. But that is all for now. So big love and hugs, and I will chat with you soon, babe.